Welcome to another exciting edition to GroveCityHockey Presents
Hockey in our neck of the woods, and you, sir, were a very talked about person towards the end.
I'm a fifth-year senior, kind of. Well, it's my sixth year of college. Incredible.
Hey guys, we want to say thank you to our sponsor, Cut Shield, for bringing you this episode. Make sure you check them out on the link below and use the promo code for 25% off your order. Used by all 32 NHL teams and players, Cut Shield is the premier protective player clothing designed by players for players. Their innovative cut-resistant clothing has prevented serious injury to numerous players, including over 30 NHL players. Cut Shield gives you the peace of mind to go out and play without worrying about injury. Use our promo code GroveCityHockey, all lowercase and no space, for an additional 25% off your order today. Welcome to GCH Podcast. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock, along with my co-host, Chris the Man Greco. And we have a very special guest traveling to us all the way from the future is Dominic Browne. Dominic, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
For those of you who don't know, Dominic is in Hong Kong. He's going to give us some inside information on the Asian Pacific inline hockey world. Which is something that both Chris and I have been talking about at length on our podcast. Not really at length, but we're just wondering what's going on the other side of the world. And so I reached out to Dom, and Dom said, "Yeah, I'll come on in the pod and talk about it." So here we go. So thanks a lot again for taking the time to jump on. It's literally 12-hour time difference from where you're at to where we are at, because we're in Michigan and you're in China, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on, guys. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to talk about hockey over this side of the world. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about how you got to be where you're at? Because right now you're over there. So tell us how you came to be in Hong Kong.
Okay, sure. So around in 2003 and 2004, I was fortunate enough to be selected for the Great Britain men's team at the FIRS, what is now World Championships.
Nice.
And then, it was a really good experience. I met a lot of really cool people. And then following that, I went into a kind of more coaching role. So I was working with the Great Britain program from under 10s, and across the years worked with the senior men's team as an assistant coach from about 2007 until 2011. And in 2011, we were in Huntington Beach at the Junior Olympic game or Junior World Championships, and with the Great Britain team. And I got speaking to the Hong Kong coach who lived in the UK for a while, and he said, we need coaches to come to Hong Kong. Fancy it? And I was like, oh man, that sounds like a really cool thing. You're getting paid to do a hobby, basically. In the UK, I wasn't getting paid to do it. I just loved doing it. And I was married at the time, and I was like, I need to speak to my wife first. You can't just move across.
Every man's first answer.
Let's check with the boss. So he's like, it'd be really cool to come over, and this is what we're doing, and this is what we're expecting. So anyway, this was in the July, and then I went back home, spoke to my wife, and was like, I would like to do it. And she's like, well, why don't you go do it? If you don't like it, you can always come back, go for a year and then come back. And I was like, okay, cool, sounds good. So I took a kind of break from the work I was doing at the time, went out there for a year, and that was, like I said, that was into the 2011, and it's 2024 now, and I've stayed here.
Never turned around.
Yeah, so it's kind of really funny when I tell people in Hong Kong that like inline hockey brought me to Hong Kong. Everyone's like, "What? Like where are you from?" I'm from Wales. Like it just kind of blows their mind a little bit. And I've moved around a little bit in terms of jobs since then, but I've always been involved in the inline hockey scene here. Just seeing some of the stuff. I like going to tournaments in America and seeing the way they run, and then think, oh, it's so good. Like we went to Narch, we went to the AAU Junior Games, and from there it was just like I was kind of hooked. I was like, I want to do this all the time or as often as I can, and that's basically what led us into kind of starting Wheelhub Asia. Really was to bring more of those opportunities for kids that may not have heard about it or may not have been exposed to it before.
Very nice, man. So were you like the first to really like go over there and get some hockey going, or was there anybody there before you?
Yeah, so the coach that was there before me, Louis Oy Bailey, he was there before me, and he'd already set up a great program. To be fair, and I kind of came in to assist and to kind of add to what he'd already set up. So yeah, I'm by far not the first person to have done it. I'm sure there's other people in Taiwan that were doing it before me. I can't take any credit for that at all. I just trying to do what I can. So, people have done a lot of great things around the region, especially down like Australia, New Zealand. You got Taiwan, China is growing massively. There's guys in Macau. There's quite a few programs around the region.
Nah, yeah, I was so surprised last year when the World Juniors came around. I was like, Chinese got a good team. I was like, wow. And I'm watching. I was like, no, this is like a really good team.
Yeah. I want to say that predominantly their junior men's team was up and coming, so that has to be, part of your influence with that. Don't be humble. But I mean, you know what I mean. So like, you probably had a hand in some of those players. I know with Namibia, I coached in Africa in 2012, and the kids that are starting to come through now were like 5, 6, 7, 8. And yeah, I mean, they were in the World Skate program, or the Learn to Skate programs, but they're now starting to come out and to really break their own. So it's really cool to see those young players thriving, because you always wonder, hey, did you kind of have any impact on any of the kids that you coached? And it turns out you probably more of an impact than you realize.
I think. It's certainly in Hong Kong, because when I first moved here, I was only kind of coaching in Hong Kong, and seeing some of those kids now that are, I remember vividly, like some of the kids I was coaching under 12s, under 14s, and then they went on to play at the Ontario Hockey Academy, and they're representing Hong Kong, and they're still playing and doing really well. And it's just amazing to see, like the fact that I don't claim any credit for anything that they've done, but it's just nice to see that I used to coach that kid and now he's doing really, really well. It's nice to see. And one thing about the Taiwanese program in particular is they often come from a speed skating background. So they do a kind of learn to skate program when they're younger. So a lot of them come through the speed skating and then they go into hockey, but all of them do like learn to skate. And then there's a pathway there. And often the ice and inline programs, they work together really well. So the ice team will have an inline team, and they train on the ice together. They train on wheels together. And there's something that was kind of unusual to me from the UK, where everyone's ice and inline seem to be kind of butting heads a lot. And same in a lot of places. And you just see the way that they you can see that these kids have been together for years. Like the way they select the national team in Taiwan is a bit different to how other countries do it, where you have trials and you get players from all different clubs come together. They have a championship, and the winners of that national championships are the ones that go to represent Chinese Taipei or Taiwan in the World Championship. So
similar to like Little League World Series, where you have a team that just plays in like a regional tournament, and then when they win, they move on, and then as a unit. So it's just localized to specific areas. That's incredible.
Yeah, so those guys, they train together, they play together, they stick together. They're very loyal. They're very like fiercely loyal. You very rarely get players that will go to a different team because the other team is doing better. They'll stick together. Yeah.
No,
can you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine if they did do the style just like the American style or the Great Britain style, where they had 2 or 3 different kids from each different area? Wow, like that's just mind blowing. If you really think about it. But at the same time, you also are going back to where you have role players. Like every kid knows their role and what they're supposed to do, and there's no fighting that. Whereas when you get different groups of talent, like what did Herb? Well, yeah, what did Herbie say? You can't talent.
No
You
can't put the same
like,
talent with each other.
it was like talent. You can't win on talent alone. You have to work together. So.
And that chemistry that they built up over years, you can't coach that. You can't train that, especially if you've got a country the size of the US and you can't train together very often because guys have work. Whereas these guys, they train together 3 times a week and they play together every week. And they may be on the ice together and on wheels together. It's one of those things that it does amaze me. I think, man, it would be amazing to choose the best few players from each team and put them together and see how they do against the rest of the world.
Yeah, that would be insane. I think the world would be in some serious hurt if they choose to go that route. Even just one time. Much like, but I mean, you guys, the thing that's really impressive to me is how well you guys came together. Last year, was it last year or the year before? Where you guys came and just blew everybody out of the water in junior men's.
I think it was Chinese Taipei team.
Yeah. That was
insane. So to be fair, they did well. I think it was a bit of surprise. It was a surprise to a lot of teams because a lot of teams maybe wouldn't have paid any attention to them beforehand, and then they came out and said that just the speed on them. They played like a different style of hockey compared to what other national teams do. I was watching online and it was amazing to see, and obviously the Instagram, everyone's like, who's these Chinese Taipei guys and why are they wearing 3 wheels on their skate and asking all these questions. I'm like, I don't know, but I'll try to find out, because like I said, we've been running Wheelhub Asia for 5 years now, since 2019. I know we have quite good links with the Taiwan team, Taiwanese players and Chinese Taipei players. But I guess the thing is, because we have links with some clubs and not all clubs, there's quite a kind of fierce rivalry between the clubs. Like if you work with one club, automatically you can't work with another club. It's kind of very political. So, we have some good times.
Keeps it growing. These guys want to beat that guy, train a little harder.
Yeah, definitely.
Growth.
And one thing we're looking to try to do is try to get some of those guys. So we're looking to enter a men's pro Narch team next summer. In the future, but next summer we're looking to do men's platinum to kind of prove we've got the talent and the ability to do that. And we're trying to get some of those guys from the Chinese Taipei team, from New Zealand, from Australia, to kind of come, those kind of young 20s players to come and try platinum and use that as a kind of stepping stone for those other players in the area to be like, we can play pro at Narch and we can play against some of the best guys in the world, and that's our kind of end goal, is to have a men's pro team. But that's what we're hoping to do, is to bring some of those kids over that you saw in the junior worlds and put them on the big stage against the big boys and see how they do.
Yeah, and you got a solid foundation, and I think that's something that you guys can really build towards. And I'm really curious to see how this Chinese Taipei team does come to the World Skate Games here in the next week. I think junior men start next Monday.
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday. I think it was the 27th. Nice. And then not only that, but then you have China has entered a team. Japan has also entered a team. India has entered a team. How often do you get a chance to see those 3 teams?
India, I've had not as much experience with India. To be honest, we've been to a few tournaments where they sent teams as well, but like only in the younger age groups. Japan we're going to be going to in January. So in January, we've got a kind of big tour of the Asia Pacific region. So we'll be going there. We've kind of had a little bit of interaction with them at other tournaments as well. China is, I think China might surprise a few teams. I don't know if they'll go to the extent of the Taiwan junior men's team, but definitely I think they'll turn a few heads. they've got so many players. Their programs are massive. You know, each kind of province within China has got rinks, and they have their own tournaments, and it's growing massively. And I think that's off the back of the Beijing Winter Olympics, where they had all the ice rinks built, and they had a lot of kind of funding and money go into the grassroots levels of sport of ice hockey and other sports. And I think from there kind of just grew. And you know, we're working with somebody in just north of Hong Kong it's a place called Shunde. And you know, they've just had a rink built, and we're looking to do stuff there because it's only a few hours from Hong Kong. So, but yeah, it's going to be good to see. Who else? Sorry, you said China, India, and Japan. Was that the three that you mentioned? Was
yeah, I know. Well, we know that Australia is sending a team. I don't think New Zealand is sending a team.
Okay.
You know, Chris can look at that real quick because I sent him the team list. Yeah, that would be it outside of South Africa. But I know Namibia is sending a team, and I don't.
Yeah,
think
and
South
they're pretty
Africa
good as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I have high hopes for the women's team this year.
Sure.
I think they're going to do fairly well.
I think we had one or two of their girls playing with us in March last year. There's two sisters, and one was playing for Palmer, and the other girl played for us in the women's gold. And she was an awesome contribution to the team, and we won gold with that team. We had a lot of like the Chinese Taipei teams. We had the girl from Namibia. We had a girl from Spain. So that was really good, kind of bringing people together from all over the world as well to play together.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you know how this game you can put no matter where you're from, you can put 5 people from 5 different parts of the world in a rink that play roller hockey. You got your goalie and your 4 skaters, and they just find a way to make it work because they know the game in and out, and it's such an incredible feeling.
100%, yeah. And that's why we do it as coaches, right? Like last summer we had 120 players from 27 different countries across 14 teams, at March finals, and some of these kids had never met each other, never played together, and they hadn't trained together, and they would just put them into a team, and they went out there. They did pretty well. I mean, our under 8s got a gold, our under 6s got a silver, our men's won the bronze division, and then our women won the gold. And like these guys never played together, but it was just like you say, just that you just go on there when you're on the floor, you just kind of figure it out, and all those players now, they still keep in touch. From the parents from the under 6s are still in like WhatsApp. The guys from the men's team are still chatting and discussing about like next summer. It's really good just making those connections across the world, and that's one of our goals really through Wheelhub, is to do that. Mainly focus in the Asia Pacific region, but obviously reaching out across the Pacific to the likes of you guys as well, and the guys that run Narch and Etan and Junior Cadiz, and basically everyone is always really happy to help, which is great.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you develop a lifelong friendship through going out there and competing against each other, and then coming together and working together, to put that little biscuit in the goal. So it's pretty cool. It's not every day that you can say that you were able to, travel to Hong Kong, or travel to Africa, for me, example, and now you're going even further. You're going, you went from Great Britain to Hong Kong. Now you're coming to the United States, with players from Asia, which, something that many people don't even realize, like, hey, inline hockey, outside of the US, or inline hockey outside of Europe, is actually still it's getting big, and it's only going to get bigger, and it's probably one of the faster growing sports, right behind wrestling, or girls wrestling, I should say, because that's just an explosion. Pickleball is an American sport. That's it.
Oh, they play that over here as well. It's again, that's quite growing. Pickleball and is it paddleball? Two kind of big ones.
Like, I don't know the difference.
Yeah, there's a turbo touch. There's a lot of like these kind of niche sports that are coming through that I guess we get to teach in PE lessons that are pretty cool. But yeah, definitely, like in terms of China is a massive market. In terms of what they've got, the ability to build facilities and have facilities, because compared to Hong Kong, especially, the land is a bit cheaper, so you can build a rink for a lower price. You've got all the factories there that make all the stuff that gets sent over to America anyway, in terms of the sticks and the skates. So things that are made can be made a bit cheaper as well. So yeah, it's a big market, and the kids have access to it. And I think a lot of programs there now are working with schools to run school leagues. And like I said, I think China will turn a few heads, I think, this year, but I think maybe in 5-10 years' time, I can only see it going one way, and they're going to get even better. And which is good, because hopefully it'll kind of elevate the talent and the level across the whole of Asia Pacific as well, and who knows, maybe even the world. Who knows?
Pretty sure you guys already turned that head, dude. You already turned the head, and you guys are already on your 5-year run, man. You're like 2 in. Give it like 3 or 4.
I'm interested to see the junior Chinese Taipei team this year, because some of those kids that are playing came to the camp that we ran, the college prospect camp we ran in Taiwan in March, and some of them went over to Milwaukee for the final camp. Some of those kids that were there at the camp, the Farm Tough camp in Milwaukee, will be at the Junior Worlds as well. So it'll be nice to see how they get on.
Yeah, we actually reached out to a few of those guys. There was a few from China, and then we had a few from Brazil.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, trying to work on international things, have them come play over at Henry Ford.
Yeah.
So hopefully, like 2-3 years, we do have plans to get a bunch of international.
Nice, that's good.
I mean, big schools got the Americans, so it's just like it's outsourced.
Yeah, we've got we're running, well, officially released yet, but we're going to be running 4 college prospect camps across Asia Pacific next year. So we're doing Japan, Taiwan, and Australia, and the 4th location we've not officially released yet, but there will be 4. So, and what we're looking to do is to select around 2 players from each of those camps, and we help fund their trip over to the final camp in June with Peter Dale and the guys at Farm Tough.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. Because that's actually, so from where I'm at, I'm literally just on the other side of the lake. So,
all right, okay.
Yeah, so it's like 20-minute drive. Yeah, it's a 2.5 hour boat ride and then a 20-minute drive.
Okay.
I'm on the opposite side of the state. I'm like a couple hours away. I think it was like 3-4.
Yeah, you're like, no, it's not 4 hours. It's 2.5, 2 hours and 35 minutes.
Even closer.
Yeah, but you're much closer to Canada than anything.
Right down the street, like 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
Well, I remember being in Taylor, Michigan in 2007.
Yeah. It's right where he's at.
Sportsplex, is it? Sportsplex Arena?
Mm-hmm. Taylor Sportsplex. It's like a 20 minutes right down the road. That's my home rink.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good facility. It's Carl's baby right there. So.
Yeah. He screwed up Canfield, so it's his new baby, his stepchild.
Yeah. Now, who knows? Who knows what the future holds? But yeah. So outside of that, what's the culture like for inline hockey? I know you talked a little bit that it's growing, it's booming. The loyalty, with each teams, but how many teams are you talking here? Like 60 teams or 150
in terms
teams?
Of, you mean across Asia or hundreds? Yeah, there'll be hundreds of teams across Asia. If you're thinking in China, there's going to be, I can't even think. Honestly, there's so many. Because China's massive. It's absolutely
like the big, because like in America, there's California's the Mecca, and then you got like Arizona, Michigan will probably come in, and you got New York, and then there's little people everywhere else. But for the most part, those are like our big ones.
I think Kaohsiung in Taiwan and Taipei in Taiwan are generally probably 2 of the bigger, because they have the facilities as well. They're kind of slightly bigger cities. Those have good programs. In terms of Korea, you've got Seoul. Again, it's a big city. Tokyo in Japan. The kind of big cities, I think. I think Beijing as well in China is kind of growing, but it's more ice hockey. Inline tends to be a bit more towards the south, like which is just north of Hong Kong. They have quite a few good teams and good programs. But yeah, I would say in terms of Asia, you're looking at that. In terms of Australia, you've got leagues in Brisbane, Melbourne, in Hobart and Tasmania that all have pretty good players and pretty good programs. And then in terms of development, you've got a program in Macau, which is like a 45-minute ferry ride away from Hong Kong. They do a lot, they've got kids in pretty much every day doing like learn to skate and hockey. And they've taken a few players that have gone over to Narch that played with us in last summer and played for a different team this summer. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
Very cool.
It is really cool to see like these kind of programs bring the kids through. And like I said, we don't really have anything to do with that in terms of the development. They're all kind of self-run programs. We just try to bring them together and try to give them opportunities to maybe go the next level or take the next step in terms of for the kids. And in the future, we're looking to do stuff for coaches too.
Very nice.
Yeah. There you go, Chris. They're looking for coaches, bud.
I don't want to go over there.
Yeah, you do.
I don't like heat, but I don't like too much heat.
It's not that bad.
This time of year, in terms of January will be nice. This time of year is gross.
I mean, what's the pay like? Until it makes dollars, it don't make sense.
The food's going to be really good.
Oh,
That's dude.
Some of the food is
in America.
Yeah.
We've gone downhill.
And it's going down quickly.
Very, very easily. They just pass everything.
Yeah.
Bread lasts like 3 months here when it should last 5 hours. So question, when you said the ice guys be doing the speed skaters and they go to rollerblades, are those rollerblades that have like 3 big wheels? And when they kind of like put a bunch of cones out and they like skate all through them on one leg. You ever see those guys?
I've seen that. Yeah, it's like the slalom stuff. So in terms of what I was talking about before, like a lot of the kids will start and like learn how to skate first, obviously, but they will do kind of speed skating. So they learn maybe some of the techniques from speed skating, and that's why you'll see a lot of the kind of kids from Taiwan are just like super quick, just because they've come from a speed skating background. And I remember growing up playing ice hockey, the best skaters were the ones that came from figure skating, because they had that control and the way they skated was just different. And it's just like, how have they done that? But it's just, I guess, the repetition of how many times they've done that or how many hours they've practiced a week. And it's kind of second nature to them. And the way they use the edges and the way they can just move is just different. And it's the same with the speed skaters. It's just something about them that it just looks effortless. And they can move pretty quick.
Yeah, I look forward to winter sports for speed skating. Speed skating and bobsledding. Those are like my 2 to watch. Obviously, hockey.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm just double checking my list here to make sure that we're not missing anybody else in the Asian Pacific area. But yeah, can you so give us a so why don't you tell us about some of the major tournaments you guys have over that way? So like for us, we have your tours, we have your Narch, you have your state wars, the big 3. Then you have a lot of pro players that play in pro leagues overseas, in France, Spain. Do you guys have an elite league for some of your elite players or platinum level players? Or is it more of a localized tournament kind of set up like Narch and State Wars?
I would say, yeah, we don't have a tournament to that level here yet. They have the Asian Championships, which is more for the national teams, and then obviously you qualify through having a passport. So with Asia being quite transient in terms of the kind of expat community, a lot of those players that come across from, say, Canada, Europe, UK, can't actually play in the Asian Championships because they don't have a Chinese passport, don't have a Hong Kong passport and things like that. So it kind of limits the club hockey, if you like, to kind of smaller tournaments around the region. Now, there are some There's some that go on in Australia. There's the Tasmania Cup in January, which is going to be an international cup. So there's teams from New Zealand, Australia. We're hoping to get teams from around the place. As part of our college prospect camp there, we're going to have a kind of, what's the term? A kind of exhibition match with some of our players, and Itan Chavira and Junior Cadiz are going to play on that team against like the tournament all-star team. So hopefully that tournament will grow. But in terms of like big tournaments like that, there's nothing really here yet. And that's something that we are, as part of our kind of project, or what we're trying to work on, is to bring NARCH across to Asia. It's just finding the facilities. I mean, having a league where our best players can play would be amazing, but because Asia's so massive and people generally have full-time jobs, like having that time commitment is difficult. But there's tournaments in Cambodia in January called the Kampuchea Cup, which we've been to and support. Like I said, there's the Tasmania Cup in January, later in January again. There's lots of little ones going on around, but nothing like that is kind of that level. And that's what we're trying to do and trying to work on. We've been trying to do it for a while. It's just trying to find a facility that can host the teams is one thing. And then trying to find a suitable kind of location or city, because we want people to come and experience Asia. We don't want to come and experience a warehouse on the edge of of an industrial site.
I wouldn't want to go that far.
Yeah, if we want people to come a long way, we have to have something to attract them as well. So it's something that we're still working on, and I'm sure in the future we'll have something of that level where we can get international teams. Because speaking to players last year, like, we want to come to Asia and play, and I'm like, I'd love you to come to Asia and play. We just need to make it right. I don't want to do it the first time and it not be right, and then people are like, oh, that was rubbish. I'd rather do it first time and people are like, I want to go back. So it's we're working on it.
It's kind of like how the Africa Cup is getting set up in Swakopmund, where they just built a facility with one with an Olympic size sheet, and then they have an NHL size sheet right next to it. And I mean that place that was built after I left, so I think they built that in like 2013, 2014.
At the wrong time.
I did. I really no, I did, but I didn't. You know what I mean? And
I feel you.
And it was one of those things where, they just built it, and people are coming. Now you're starting to see, the Palma guys are going. Kevin Mooney, from Club Molina, he was there. Chucky Baldwin, Etan was there, I think, last year. And Etan's been on the show before as well, and he's been a former teammate of mine, and I love the guy, and I can't say enough nice things about him. What he's got going on out there with his Dangle Jojo is phenomenal, and and him, and then with Cadiz playing, I think Cadiz even plays with Chile, nowadays, so he's in there. Yeah, they got a team too. They're playing this year. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how like the world is finally catching up to inline hockey, and it's amazing to see.
I think definitely. And I think it's like players like that, like you mentioned, like Etan and Junior and Kevin Mooney and those guys and Travis Noe, that are kind of, they're building the sport up for people to see. And like some of the stuff you see on Instagram and some of the highlight reels, is it Pete Lanise, the Elevate O2 guy, some of the stuff that they're doing, and Pavel Barber, it's taking the inline sport to a new community or new like group of people, like the ice hockey people that have always kind of looked down on inline hockey as like the kind of like the younger brother that hasn't quite made it,
or the ugly stepsister.
Exactly.
And once the crazy thing is that once those ice people start to realize that inline will help your ice game 10 times more than any time, any amount of just playing ice alone will. I think But at the same time, let them keep their nose, sticking their nose up to it, because we know the reality of the situation is, and we'll get much more puck time with the puck than they will with their 2 seconds.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's just
100%.
fun. I didn't even know roller hockey was a thing until like 2019 when Henry Ford made a team. Yeah, because I'm from Dearborn. It's like the biggest Middle Eastern population and outside of the Middle East. And it's like Henry Ford has a team here. I'm like, no way. Like, how would you get a hockey team in Dearborn? And it turns out it was Inline. And I was like, oh, I played outside a few times. Like, I'm hip. And then you go to the first tournament, sure as shit. Lindenwood's there with scholarships. Michigan State has a D1 team. They're all matching and stuff. I blew my mind at how big it was and how organized it was.
Yeah. And I find there's one thing I say whenever I speak about like the kind of differences between ice and inline is I find that the inline community is a lot closer and tighter and more willing to help each other out. I've never, ever, if I've asked somebody for some advice or some help in the inline community, I've never, ever been turned down, ever, from anybody. And I think that maybe because we all understand the same struggle in terms of the ice versus inline thing, we're more willing to help each other, whereas ice seems so competitive that they will go out of the way not to help. Or, it's like, not everybody, to be fair, but a lot of people.
Yeah. And the one thing I've noticed, to kind of piggyback up, is that we're willing to help you grow the game of inline hockey, because we love the game of inline. We don't care if you come out and you kick our butts the next time we play, because, we just beat you. We just love playing the game. And we're going to do whatever we can to help you guys grow and learn and be successful, just like you guys are going to turn around and do the same thing for us. So, and it's amazing. It's like one of those things where, so MIHA, is the Midwest Inline Hockey Association up here in the Midwest, where they travel from New York all the way to Illinois, and they go down, sometimes
Pennsylvania, New York.
Yep, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, Indiana, Ohio, all of those core states. They're right there in the middle, and in between. And they're now the youth market. They're trying to tap into the youth market because it's kind of like a standstill. They're talking to each other about, hey, this is what's working in our market. This is what's not working in our market. But this, it might work for you guys to try it this way. It might be better to try it this way. So that's one thing that I will always try to advocate for is if you're watching this and you're listening to this, over there in Asia, is just contact the other clubs. Yeah. Loyalty is one thing. But if you have nobody to play against, you're only going to be as good as your opponent,
Preach.
There's no progress, is there, without collaboration?
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Well put. Well put.
Yeah. So, Dom, that's going to do it for this, because I know you got to get ready to go teach your next class. We appreciate you taking the time.
I got one more question.
Shoot.
I do got one question. I don't know if this is a dumb question or not. Is there like a cheaper, do you guys get equipment cheaper by chance over there?
So you can get kind of equipment cheaper if you like. So you can.
So I know if you go down south in America, tobacco is always cheaper than if you go up north.
Yeah.
And hockey equipment, oh my God.
Yeah, some things you can get for significantly cheaper, because they're kind of, a lot of stuff is made in China, and a lot of the factories will kind of, you could go to a factory and you could say, oh, can you make me this kind of stick? I want this logo on it, or whatever. You can do that. I mean, in terms of what we do as Wheelhub, we only kind of work with established brands, like the Wheel brands, kind of Revision, Conix. We're trying to get some things sorted out with Lebeda. And what we try to do is bring those products to Asia for players that want to buy good quality wheels, because you buy them cheap, but if you buy them cheap, you buy them twice. So whereas with a good quality product, those wheels will last you a lot longer. So that's the kind of our kind of ethos, is to work with like established brands and products rather than going down the route of getting them made at a cheaper price, and maybe the quality is not so good. Now, there are some good quality, kind of not unbranded, but kind of lesser known branded wheels and sticks and things in Asia, obviously. But you can get them cheaper. But for us in particular, we will only work with the kind of more established brands because we know the quality is there. Last thing we want to do is get a bunch of wheels in and they break on people's first roll, and then it's like, it doesn't look good for us and it doesn't look good for the brand. So,
Amen to that. Well, Dom, we appreciate you coming on, taking time out of your day.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it, and hope we have a good rest of your evening.
Yes, I'm going to be. You as well. I'm going to be going to bed. Yeah, I'm going to be going to bed. Chris is going to be staying up until 2 a.m. and you're going to be teaching for the rest of the day. But again, we cannot thank you enough for taking the time. We appreciate you coming on, and hopefully you will come back on after the World Skate Games. We'll do a recap of how all of the teams did from the Asia Pacific, with Japan, China, Chinese Taipei, and Australia. I'm really looking forward to, and Namibia too. You can kind of lump them into that category a little bit.
We'll take them.
I'm curious as to see how they do, and I want to hear your thoughts and what you were hearing, from the results after the tournament.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me again, guys. Really appreciate it, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right, take care.
That's going to do it for this episode of GCH Podcast. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock, alongside Chris Greco. Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure you like and subscribe on all our platforms on YouTube and on Spotify. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Cheers.